There is something very strange that happens in relationships, and it's so common that most people don't even question it anymore. Like, someone meets you, they observe you, they hear you talk, they see how you behave in certain situations, and slowly they start building a version of you inside their head. Not the real you, not the full you, like a simplified version, a comfortable version, a predictable version. And at first, like, this doesn't seem like a problem because like people need patterns to understand the world. They categorize, they assume, they predict. But the problem begins when that imaginary version becomes more real to them than you. Because then one day you do something that doesn't match the character they created. Maybe you set a boundary, maybe you say no, maybe you change your mind, maybe you choose like a different path than they expected. And suddenly they look at you as if you betray them. Like, oh, you changed. I didn't expect this from you. You disappointed me. And I want you to really think about this. Disappointed? Them? Based on what? Like, did you promise something? Did you sign a contract? Did you tell them, oh, I will always be this person you imagine? Or did they quietly build expectations in their own mind without your permission? Because expectations are often self-created, and when someone creates an expectation alone, they are also the only one responsible for managing it. But instead of acknowledging that, people often shift the blame onto you. They act as if you broke an agreement that never existed. And this is where many people start feeling guilty. Like, they start questioning themselves. Like, maybe I should have acted differently. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't want to hurt them. But here is a hard truth that will set you free if you accept it. You are not responsible for maintaining an illusion that someone else created, okay? You are responsible for being honest, for being respectful, and for being authentic, okay? But you are not responsible for being predictable. And this is important because a lot of emotional manipulation hides behind disappointment. Like, when someone says, oh, you disappointed me, it sounds like they are hurt. And sometimes they genuinely are. But sometimes what they are really saying is, you didn't behave the way I wanted you to. And those are two very different things, because disappointment caused by broken promises is understandable. But disappointment caused by broken fantasies is not your burden to carry. Like, you didn't mislead them. They filled in the blanks themselves. They projected qualities onto you. They assumed intentions you never confirmed. Like, they imagined a future version of you without asking who you actually wanted to be. And then, when reality doesn't match their imagination, they react with frustration, not because you lied, but because reality interrupted their story. And I know this is uncomfortable to accept because, like, we are taught to be considerate of others' feelings. Like, we are taught to avoid disappointing people, but here's the problem. Like, if you start living your life based on avoiding disappointment, you stop living your life based on truth. You start like editing yourself. You start thinking, oh, they expect me to be this way, so I should probably keep acting like that. And slowly you drift away from who you actually are. Like, not because you changed, but because you are trying to maintain someone else's comfort. And that is one of the fastest ways to lose your identity. Like, you start performing instead of existing. Like, you start maintaining instead of evolving. And then one day you feel trapped in a role you never auditioned for. You feel misunderstood even though you are like physically present the whole time, because people weren't relating to you. They were relating to their idea of you. And when you finally act in alignment with yourself, they feel shocked. Not because you betrayed them, but because they never really knew you in the first place. And this is why self-awareness is so important. You need to know who you are, what you value, and what direction you want to go in life. Because when you are clear about yourself, other people's expectations lose power. You stop feeling guilty for being consistent with your own truth. You understand that someone else's disappointment is not always a sign that you did something wrong. Okay, sometimes it's just a sign that they were attached to a version of you that no longer exists or never existed at all. And here's something you need to accept if you want to live freely. Some people will only like you when you are easy to predict, okay? When you are flexible, when you are agreeable, when you are convenient, okay? Because the moment you become more complex, more independent, more honest about what you want, they will call that change. But growth often looks like change to people who benefited from your old version. And this is where courage is required, because it is easier to stay in a role than to face people's disappointment. It is easier to keep being who they expect than to deal with their confusion or anger. But easy does not mean healthy, and it definitely does not mean authentic. You cannot spend your life acting as a character in someone else's story. Okay, you are not here to fulfill expectations you never agreed to. You are here to build a life that is aligned with who you truly are. Okay, and sometimes that means hearing, "Oh, I thought you were different." And instead of panicking, you calmly respond, maybe not even out loud, but internally, "I am different, and that's okay." Because being misunderstood is often the price of being honest, okay? And honestly is always lighter than pretending. So no, you don't need to apologize for disappointing someone you didn't lie, manipulate, or betray them. You don't need to carry the weight of expectations you never accepted. What you need is clarity, okay? Clarity about your intentions, clarity about your values, clarity about your right to evolve, because the people who truly care about you will eventually adjust to the real you. And the ones who only cared about the fantasy will drift away. And that's not a loss, that's alignment. And this was the message of today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And that's it. I see you in the next video. Bye!